Hi, this is Hank reporting from Kyiv, and this is my update on Russian-Ukrainian war. Let's see what happened around Ukraine in the last 24 hours. Strategic distilleries attacked. $400 million US military package. $800 million US military investment. $3 billion loan from United Kingdom plus 35 billion euro loan from European Union. North Korean elite units. Another traitor busted in Ukraine. Drone attack stats. Record Russian losses in Ukraine. Okay, Ukraine has crossed the last red lines of the Russians and attacked two large distilleries in the Tula and Tambov regions of Russia. Here on the map, I have marked the approximate location of these sacred objects. It's time for Dmitry Medvedev to wake up and burst out with fresh nuclear threats. This is a video from Tula region. Behind the scenes, Russians use different combinations of three swear words to describe their surprise and what is happening. Honestly, I regret every day that some phraseological terms and wordplay cannot be translated into English. I have a text file on my iPhone called Circus, where I write down all the funniest things that Russians have done since the invasion. And I say that from very beginning that if people had not died, this war would have been the greatest comedy show of all time. Just imagine if they had nothing stronger than sticks and stones. I wish. This is a photo of the second distillery after the Ukrainian drone attack. By the way, the Russians even called the explosion an explosion, not a bang as usual. If you're not in the context of this thing, Putin makes Russians use newspeak, like in George Orwell's novel 1984, which, by the way, Russians banned from being sold in bookstores, apparently because it's excessive similarity to their reality. And avoid calling the explosion an explosion. In all the documents they write, there was a bang. If we blew up a military airfield, they write the grass burned due to fallen debris and stuff like that. Lloyd, the head of the US Department of Defense, visited Kyiv, and his visit was immediately followed by announcement of two aid packages for Ukraine. The first package is transferred under the PDA program, which means writing off all the equipment from Pentagon warehouses and transferring it to Ukrainian army. The cost of the equipment is estimated at $400 million. I see 12 items on the list. I'll not describe them in detail, I will just leave a link to the official website of the US Department of Defense. If you want, you can read it yourself. In short, we are being given shells, anti-tank grenade launchers, old-proven M113 armored personnel carriers, which have already saved a huge number of soldiers, as well as various equipment. I didn't see any new items, everything that has already been transferred before. I hope all this is well planned and will strengthen our positions. Again, I will say thank you for this help. Even 60-year-old M113s will greatly help us resist the Russian, even more ancient armored personnel carriers. They could rust in Pentagon warehouses for a couple more years and then go to a scrapyard, but here they can literally save lives. The second aid package from the US is more interesting, and I can link it to Lloyd Austin's personal visit. This is probably what was approved behind closed doors after the release of Zelensky's victory plan. Quote from the president: "Another separate package is being prepared. Funding for the production of Ukrainian drones, $800 million. Ukraine is grateful for this support. We need Ukraine to be able to consistently defend its sovereignty, its independence, despite any political threats in the world. This will definitely happen." I believe that the US decided not to give permission for long-range missile strikes on Russian military facilities, but to finance the production of new types of weapons here in Ukraine in order to get around this acute angle. If you look for benefits in this decision, then I see that they are investing money in the development of new weapons using foreign resources, and we'll have access to them in future. The terms are unknown to us, but I like this kind of outsourcing. Let me remind you that in any case, the US is making profitable investment for itself with these military aid packages no matter what. What will be the benefit? Political, technological, and in long-term access to those natural resources that we cannot extract yet because of the war. In any case, thank you for your cooperation. Another news of this nature: a loan of almost $3 billion from Great Britain, which will be paid for by frozen Russian assets. A very interesting scheme. Wash the hands. Britain arrests Russian assets. Then, Britain allocates to Ukraine the money received from these assets as a loan. Ukraine buys weapons from Great Britain with this money allocated as a loan. Have you noticed who receives benefit here? I have. And it's not Russia. And I really like this scheme. Let's all do this until Putin decides to stop this damn war. Following this news, I received an update about another €35 billion loan from European Union on the same rules. They give us money and they will receive them back from frozen Russian assets. This scheme is perfect from all sides. Intelligence and the press are gradually spinning information about the participation of North Koreans in our war, and it's becoming more detailed. We all know that North Korea absolutely suppresses any freedom of speech, free will, and in general the people there have been living for decades behind the Iron Curtain. Most of them do not understand what is happening behind the fence, and many fanatically idolize Kim. More precisely, all the Kims one after another. South Korean intelligence reports that 1,500 soldiers have been sent to Ukraine who, quote, "These are fighters from an elite special forces unit known for their cruelty. They were raised in conditions of a complete information vacuum and processed by ideology. They are called combat slaves for their tough training and dedication to the destruction of the enemies of their beloved leader." Doesn't it sound great? Of course, I'm primarily concerned about what South Korea will do, who in this context is our closest ally, and I am so glad that we are on the same side of the barricades. South Korea is a developed country with a high standard of living, a strong army and technology, the complete opposite of North Korea. Also, they are potentially one people divided by ideologies. Now I hear rumors about their plans, but so far nothing concrete is known. I'm following this topic and I'll tell you when there are some specifics. In these screenshots from their propaganda programs, it's difficult to understand what is happening. To me, it looks like training of the Belarusian special forces. Have you ever seen training of Lukashenko's special forces? This is incredible. This is a demonstration performance of the Belarusian special forces. I do not know how to comment on this and in general on what principle they chose the program for the performance. What I heard from the Belarusian volunteers who are fighting for Ukraine, there really is such a plywood army and everything is very bad. It's held together purely by Lukashenko's propaganda and terror. Well, you have probably seen at least one of his nonsense he talks on camera. It's really scary to imagine that crazy old man control the fates of millions of people and choose who will die for their palaces and wealth. Do you think the world has always been like this? I think so. It's just that now it's became more noticeable because we have the internet and smartphones in every pocket. We continue the topic of arrests of employees of the sex service in Ukraine. I remind you that this is a state service that deals with the registration of disabilities and medical examinations of wounded soldiers and civilians. Recently, large schemes for receiving bribes for fake disabilities have been uncovered and the process continues. Now the security service has caught another head of the sex office in the city of Mykolaiv in the south. A huge amount of dirty cash was confiscated from her, about $450,000, as well as jewelry and Russian passport in the name of her son. In this name, she also registered 3 undeclared apartments and, using her connections, registered him as disabled in order to receive benefits and pay less for these apartments. The investigation continues. Damn it, I'm so pissed by such people. There is a war in the country, Russia attacks Mykolaiv with missiles nearly every day, and you accept their passport and steal money. Is it possible to assume that if the city was captured, this woman and her son would happily start collaborating with the Russian occupiers? The question is rhetorical. Damn traitors are everywhere, and this is very difficult to fight on 2 fronts at the same time. I don't want to end on a bad note, but I have to tell you about this documentary called Shadows Across the River. There will be a link to the documentary in English below the video, and I won't give any spoilers, but I'll make an announcement. You might want to watch it. It's hard, just like 20 Days in Mariupol, but you have to see it to understand the real picture. I'm for knowing the bitter truth, not avoiding stress and hard facts. After all, journalism is about telling the stories of people who have no voice. The description of the film begins like this. Russian forces are abducting, torturing and killing civilians living in the occupied left bank of the Ukrainian Kherson region since the onset of the full-scale invasion in 2022, and they continue to do so. The entire plot is told by this small but terrible episode of war. If you have the stress, then please watch it. You need to know this story. And thank you for your courage. Last night, the Russians attacked Ukraine with drones as usual. 60 targets were detected, 42 were shot down, 10 were landed with the help of electronic warfare. 4 turned around and flew away towards Russia and Belarus, Total minus 56, but 4 drones hit the target. In the city of Sumy, on the northeastern border with Russia, 3 civilians were killed, including 1 child, when a drone hit a multi-story building. I feel so sorry for these poor people. It's a shame that we cannot shoot down 100% of all air targets. And if you ask why they didn't cover when the air raid siren went on, well, Sumy is being shelled sometimes during 16 or 20 hours per day. You can't just be in the shelter every time. Over the past 24 hours, the Russians lost 1,350 soldiers and a lot of armored vehicles. A total of 147 units of anything that moves and shoots were destroyed, not counting specific equipment like air defense and engineering equipment. I would really like to know how many more gear the Russians have left and when they will run out. Let's hope that the intelligence forecast for the next year will correspond to reality. And suddenly we broke the record for Russian losses. Analyst Roman Shrike calculated that over the past week the Russians lost the maximum number of soldiers since the beginning of the war, minus 10,040 people in 7 days. On this graph you can see the changes by month since the last week of February 2022 when it all began. Yeah, it began in 2014, I know. I mean the full-scale invasion, the hot phase. The second sudden record number is the number of destroyed armored combat vehicles in 7 days, minus 280 units. This is the third place after the incredible numbers from the last week of February 2022. As you can see, for the second year in a row, these numbers make a breakthrough in October and then begin to decline when the weather starts to get worse in November. I wonder how many more of these vehicles we will have to destroy. Well, we continue to fight for our land, life and freedom. Thank you to everyone who supports us in any possible way, with their votes, money, equipment, or just a kind words of support. With your help, we still exist. If you want to support this channel, all the links are below the video. Thanks for watching and take care, and I hope to see you tomorrow.